You guys still in Tampa? What's that? You guys still in Tampa?
Most of them, yeah.
Wow.
All right, Mike is loud.
We good?
Yep.
Good afternoon. As always, I'll kind of outline last night's game. You know, I talked after the game about the penalties. The penalties were a significant element of the game. And really, I'll say two specific things about the penalties. I understand it was an emotional game, a big game, prime time for us, responding from a negative performance. So I understand the emotions in it, but boy, we got to play cleaner than we played last night. We played hard, but we got to play cleaner. We got to play smarter. The second thing I'll say is, you know, penalties were called in a similar fashion on both sides. And from that perspective, it's fair. I don't worry a lot about how the game is being officiated, provided it's being officiated in a similar way. And I thought it was from that perspective. But as somebody that appreciates the game and understand that we're in the sport entertainment business, it is worrisome from the fan perspective. I do worry about what it's like to watch that game at home, you know, with penalties being administered at the rate that they were. But in terms of the competition, in terms of how the game unfolded, I thought it was a wash. I do acknowledge that we got to play better and smarter in some of those instances, particularly in special teams. From a field position standpoint, it was significant. First opening kickoff, we got out beyond the 30-yard line. We got a holding penalty. I think we started around the 10 or the 11. The first kick we covered, we tackled them around the 10 or 11, I think, and we got a face mask, and obviously that tacked 15 on there. We had a false start on a punt and then a 15-yard penalty, and we had downed that ball, you know, later in the game, well inside the 10-yard line. The subsequent kick ended up being a touchback. So the hidden yardage element of it is extremely significant. We got a lot of work ahead of us in that regard. We'll get to it as soon as the guys get in the morning. Second thing I'd like to talk about is, you know, we've given up some big plays, and particularly at the cornerback position, and we're playing a number of people. And we're just going to continue to play a number of people until someone distinguishes themselves. You know, they've all had their moments, them being Artie, Cody, and Cam Sutton. We've been playing them all, but we've given up some balls down the grass, and really in just about every instance. So we'll continue to play all three of those guys. All three of those guys work hard. They're putting themselves in position to make the plays, but they're not making enough of them. Until we get that, the rotation will continue. It's good to have Joe back in the game. I think his presence was felt early in the game, that first third down, being ball aware and breaking it up and then going on and having the type of game he had. It's good to have him back in the fold as we sort through some unsteady times at the spot opposite of him. On the offensive side, I thought the splash play by Vance was significant for a lot of reasons, man. It responded to a negative offensive possession prior to that where we turned the ball over. It responded to a negative defensive possession when we didn't get to stop after the sudden change. It put us back in the football game. Needed that from him, and hopefully that continues. It's good to get a variety of the contributions that we're getting from, you know, eligibles, whether it's Vance one week or Jesse another week. Our ability to spread the ball around, I think, helps us continue to move it fluidly. And on the injury note, coming out of the game, Mike Hilton's elbow is being evaluated as we speak. A number of the guys that missed time last week because of injury, Morgan Burnett, David DeCastro, Marcus Gilbert, all have a legitimate chance to participate in this game. And as we always do, their practice participation will be our guide in terms of their availability. We get ready now for the Baltimore Ravens, and it's AFC North football. We understand what that is. It's at home. We're excited about getting back in the Heinz Field. They got some new components, some things that we need to be concerned about. Really, they've overhauled their receiving corps. Mike Crabtree and John Brown and Willie Snead are new to them, so we're getting familiar with them, their talents, their division of labor, how Joe Flacco utilizes them within the framework of their offense. Seeing a good, solid division of labor with their running backs, with Collins establishing himself as a primary ball carrier and Allen as a third down ball carrier. They utilize a number of tight ends and employ them in a variety of ways. Their spread ball has evolved, and they're moving the ball very fluidly. I'd imagine they got to be 1, 2, or 3 in the NFL in red zone offense. It seems like every possession I've looked at, they're getting points and putting points on the board. So that's going to be challenging. Obviously, defensively, familiar matchups, Suggs and company. We've been going at it with these guys, it seems like, forever now. It'll be familiar, but familiar will not frame the game in any way. You learn not to go into this thing with any preconceived notions. You better just prepare and play hard and anticipate in playing hard for 60 to 60-plus minutes, whatever it takes to get the job done. Glad the game is Sunday night, man. We're going to utilize all that time between now and then to prepare ourselves and do so appropriately. But happy to address any questions you might have.
Mike, when you left the competition committee meeting in the spring, did you feel like you had a good role in place in terms of the new emphasis on roughing the passer and landing on the quarterback?
I don't think I don't think you ever have a feeling of what it is until it plays itself out inside stadiums. The application is just as significant as the rule itself. So, I think I'm learning, like we're all learning, what it means in terms of the rule.
Can the committee, I understand there's a conference call next week. Is there anything the committee can recommend or will?
I'm not going to speculate on the nature of that conference call.
Mike, is it difficult because you can't, the other penalties in practice, you can look at them and holding whatever, but that specific penalty, you're not going to have guys hit Ben or hit Josh or hit Mason and look at it on tape and say, hey, you can't do that. I mean, how do you sort of clean that up when you can't practice?
You don't practice face mask or not face masking in a practice-like setting, but you expect guys not to get face mask penalties in game. What you preach is fundamental in skill development, and if they stay focused in those areas, that they're playing within the rules.
Mike, since you opened up talking about the penalties, and I think this is the second time I've heard you reference how you tend to evaluate your penalties versus the opponent in terms of how much they match up, and you have been pretty close to your opponent each week, but now there's a disparity between you and the next highest team in the NFL. How do you evaluate that, looking at whether or not you've been accurately penalized? Or
again, it's much too early in the season for me to paint with a broad brush and look at global things. I've just been focusing on the stadiums that we've been in, and it's been pretty balanced in the stadiums that we've been in. So we'll keep watching. We'll keep working our tails off to play within the rules first and foremost. And we'll just keep watching it as the volume of things to look at gets greater and probably more accurate.
Was one of those emotional penalties that you were referring to DHB at the end, and what, if anything, did you say to him about taking that one?
I didn't say anything to him because I know DHB. And I understand his attention to detail, his level of professionalism. I thought it was something that we could sort out after the fact. It was too many moving parts and things going on at that juncture of the game. We had to kick a ball down into the red zone and then play defense. We talked about it after, but again, it's less significant. We get an opportunity to talk about it after perspective changes and all of those things. The game was over.
You kind of mentioned the inputs or the entertainment value of all the penalties for people watching. Do you see that as responsibility kind of the stewards of the game, part of the competition committee to make the game appealing in that way?
Just an appreciator of the game, somebody that's in this ecosystem that understands the entertainment of the fan, makes it all go. I just say it from that perspective, not as a member of the committee or anybody in a titled position in any form or fashion. Just as somebody who loves football, that probably wasn't a fun game to watch.
Mike, are you satisfied with what you've seen from the run game so far?
We've had our moments. I like the way we ran the ball at the end of the game when you had to run it. Again, probably not a big enough body of work to paint with a broad brush. We've done it when we've needed to do it. I'm sure we're going to do it more when the opportunity presents itself. Right now, we're just focusing on utilizing all the weapons within our offense and working to keep people off balance and the chains moving fluidly.
Mike, did you send more people more frequently after the quarterback than you had done in the first 2 games?
I hadn't looked at the self-scout analysis in terms of the raw numbers, but we were within our personality in that football game.
Did that go for Boston, too? He seemed to be pretty effective when he brought him at quarterback last night.
He missed one. I don't know if you were referring to that one.
He was in the backfield on a few occasions.
He was. We sent him enough. You know, we were trying to keep him off balance, man. Ryan was on a tear, you know, and so, boy, you had to move him off the spot some. You had to work to disrupt him in the receivers and work to minimize that element of play, and that's all we were trying to do.
When you talk about the rotation at cornerback, is that sort of a hot hand thing, or is that a set strict by series thing, or how do you decide?
I'm not going to frame it. We'll play it by ear. I don't want to box myself in.
Anyone else?
Mike, there were reports this weekend that the team was listening to offers for Le'Veon, or be willing to listen to offers for Le'Veon. Is your understanding, has there been any change in the mindset from the organization?
I'm not talking Le'Veon. I'm just not. There's nothing new to add.
Mike, did you have Hayden shadow Deshaun Jackson, or that just happens to be his side?
It was his side a lot, and we knew that. And sometimes it just falls like that.
Any level of concern with Boswell?
No. You know, he's a heck of a kicker. He's our kicker. I am concerned about the ball not going in, but I'm not concerned about him. Got a great deal of confidence in him. He'll get it turned around. I'll acknowledge that it hadn't been where we needed to be thus far.
When you said you don't want to rely on familiar notions as it relates to the Ravens, it's one of those aspects of the improvement in the red zone. I think I read somewhere they haven't had a dry trip in the red zone yet. They've been pretty efficient there.
So what's your question?
So, have you seen a lot of improvement or change in approach to how they operate offensively in the red zone?
I just think more than anything else, man, this early in the year when you got so many new components, man, there's an element of the unknown. People are trying to figure out how to match up against them, how the new key components are going to divide the labor and who to minimize situationally. And I think sometimes when you go through transition, it is a positive for you because people are trying to figure out what it is that you do. I don't want to take anything away from them. They've been highly successful. But when you start talking about Mike Crabtree is new, John Brown is new, Willie Snead is new, you know, it's an adjustment for those who compete against them as well. Not only an adjustment for them in terms of gaining continuity, it's an adjustment for those who compete against them.
Does that go for preparing for Lamar to then potentially?
No question. No question.
Mike, did you have an idea that James would be as effective as he's been as a receiver out of the backfield for you?
I did. He's been, you know, I just go by what I see in practice-like settings, and he's been very effective.
Mike, what's your assessment on Filer?
You know, I thought Matt did an awesome job, and thank you for mentioning that. I'd be remiss if I didn't. Not surprised by it. You know, we don't take our contributions from our starters and waiting for granted. We expect those guys to perform well, but at the same time, we appreciate it. Guys like B.J. Finney over the last several years has had an opportunity to prove that he's capable in those ways. And, you know, Matt hadn't had a lot because we've had guys like Chris Hubbard. And so for him to get an opportunity, I think that's probably his second start to come in and play the way that he played and be a part of a winning performance, I think is big for him and big for us.
Is Chicolo's playing time more function of a kind of reward for him and what he's done, or is that more to keep guys fresh? Or?
He's varsity, and so we're going to play varsity guys, you know, guys that can help